The Nexus Dominion slave ship Eternal Subjugation was a monument to technological oppression. 17 kilometers long, its titanium-carbon alloy hull bristled with suppression fields, quantum dampeners, and neural inhibition arrays that had crushed countless rebellions across 100 different species. Its holding decks could contain over 500,000 prisoners, each carefully segregated, monitored, and broken. Rebecca Chen watched the ship's internal schematics flicker across her neural interface, every circuit and maintenance shaft etched into her memory like a battle map. Her left eye, a sophisticated biomechanical implant that was more advanced computer than organic tissue, scanned and rescanned potential entry points, calculating probabilities with cold, mathematical precision. 37 seconds to initial breach, whispered Kai Martinez, her second in command. Unlike Rebecca's calculated calm, Kai vibrated with an almost feral intensity. A former xenobiological warfare specialist, he had spent 7 years in Nexus Dominion labor camps, his body a living testament to their brutality. Thin scars traced neural rewiring points across his exposed skin, each one a reminder of the experimental procedures meant to break his spirit. But they hadn't broken him. They hadn't broken any of them. The team assembled in the cramped preparation chamber was unlike any military unit in galactic history. 12 individuals, each selected not just for their skills, but for their impossible stories of survival. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a quantum geneticist who had survived 3 separate extinction protocols. Victor Okoye, an engineer who had rebuilt entire communication networks using parts scavenged from prison maintenance tunnels. Aria John, a former Dominion codebreaker who had literally rewritten her own neural pathways to resist mental conditioning. They were not soldiers. They were living weapons. Rebecca's neural interface pinged. Final synchronization complete. The team's biorhythms aligned, their augmentations creating a network more integrated than any traditional military communication system. Each member carried technological modifications that would make most alien scientists weep: organs that could metabolize radiation, skin that could absorb and redistribute electrical charges, minds that could process information faster than most supercomputers. Primary suppression field is at 72% operational capacity. Aria's voice cut through their neural link. We have a 3.6-second window before complete systems recalibration. The ship's massive reactor pulsed like a mechanical heart. Somewhere in its depths, 287,000 prisoners waited, not just as captives, but as the next phase of a plan decades in the making. Kai's hands moved with practiced precision, attaching molecular disruptors to the chamber's primary access point. These weren't standard explosives. Each device was a carefully engineered piece of technology that would not just breach the hull, but temporarily rewrite the molecular structure of the surrounding metal. Targeting specific molecular resonance frequencies, he muttered. They won't just break through. They'll confuse every sensor and tracking system in a 10-kilometer radius. Rebecca's augmented vision zoomed into microscopic details. This wasn't just a prison break. This was the first move in humanity's most elaborate long-game strategy. Every prisoner they would extract was a crucial piece of an impossible puzzle. Individuals with specific genetic markers, unique neural configurations, technological expertise that would be invisible to standard Dominion screening. The ship's automated systems would register their actions, but by the time they could formulate a response, the real operation would already be in motion. Breach in 3. Kai's voice was calm. 2. 1. The molecular disruptors activated. For a millisecond, the ship's hull transformed into something between solid matter and plasma, creating a breach that defied conventional physics. Alarms blared, but they were already moving. Each team member a precision instrument of liberation and revenge. Prisoners would soon discover they were not being rescued. They were being recruited. The real war was just beginning. The Galactic Technology Consortium's annual conference was the most prestigious scientific gathering in known space. Delegates from 317 different civilizations assembled in the massive crystalline amphitheater of Nexus Prime, a neutral space station that orbited a carefully selected neutron star. Each species occupy a specific gravitational zone, their environmental needs meticulously accommodated by trillion-credit atmospheric and gravitational engineering. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez adjusted his standard-issue presentation interface, looking every bit the mid-level researcher from Humanity's Peripheral Research Division. His unremarkable gray suit and carefully modulated presentation demeanor screamed bureaucratic scientist, exactly as planned. What no one in the amphitheater realized was that Marcus Rodriguez was about to launch the most sophisticated cyber attack in galactic history. The presentation began innocuously. Quantum communication stability in non-Euclidean transmission environments. The title slide read. To the assembled alien scientists, it promised nothing more than a potentially dry technical overview. Senior researchers from the Zorn Collective and the Area Technological Synergy were already preparing to catch up on sleep, their neural filters set to passive monitoring. Marcus's first slide contained exactly 2,746 lines of what appeared to be standard quantum communication algorithms. Each line was a carefully crafted piece of code, a digital parasite that would begin its work the moment it was processed by any of the station's computational systems. The consortium's standard protocol required all presentations to be transmitted through their central processing network. It was a security measure designed to prevent technological espionage. It was about to become humanity's ultimate weapon. In the observation gallery, Dr. Elena Nakamura watched through a series of encrypted neural links. Her augmented vision parsed the presentation differently, seeing the code as a living, breathing organism of technological warfare. Each algorithm was a vector, each mathematical notation a potential breach point. Transmission integrity at 99.7%. A subtle subvocal command whispered through her neural implant. The team had spent years preparing for this moment, identifying specific technological vulnerabilities across multiple alien civilizations, creating a payload that would spread like a quantum cancer through their most secure systems. Marcus's voice remained calm, almost monotonous. My research explores the fundamental limitations of quantum entanglement in multi-dimensional communication networks. To the untrained ear, it was technical jargon. To the quantum processors silently analyzing his presentation, it was something entirely different. The first breach occurred precisely 17 minutes and 23 seconds into the presentation. The junior analyst from the Vox Technological Directorate, a young researcher with enhanced pattern recognition abilities, noticed an anomaly in the background mathematical formulas. But by then, it was already too late. The payload had been delivered. Across the conference hall, high-level researchers from a dozen different civilizations began to experience subtle system disruptions. A Zorn Collective senior scientist found her primary research database subtly reorganized. An Area Synergy lead engineer discovered unexplained optimization protocols running in his most secure computational systems. What appeared to be minor technical glitches were actually sophisticated infiltration algorithms, each designed to do far more than simple data extraction. These were adaptive systems that would fundamentally alter how these civilizations understood their own technological infrastructure. Marcus completed his presentation with a bland smile, taking questions that seemed perfectly normal. Each response was another layer of the infiltration, another vector for the technological virus that was now spreading through the most secure networks in known space. "Any questions?" he asked, knowing full well that the real questions were just beginning. In the observation gallery, Elena allowed herself the smallest smile. The first phase of Operation Terra's Fury was complete. The galaxy's most brilliant minds had just been comprehensively compromised, and they didn't even know it yet. The real hack was just beginning. The Nexus Dominion's Central Intelligence Hub was considered the most secure facility in known space, a massive spherical structure suspended in the magnetic flux of a carefully contained neutron star. It was a marvel of technological paranoia. Multiple layers of quantum encryption, neural pattern firewalls, and reality distortion field generators made it theoretically impenetrable. Captain Alina Nakamura watched the facility's schematics dissolve and reform on her neural interface, seeing far more than any conventional scanning system could detect. Her team wasn't just going to breach the facility. They were going to rewrite reality itself. Psychological warfare is never about breaking systems, she had told her team during their final briefing. It's about making those systems question their own fundamental assumptions. Kai Martinez moved like a ghost through the facility's first layer of defenses. His augmented body was more machine than flesh now, a living weapon designed to exploit the tiniest vulnerabilities. Nano-adaptive camouflage modules shifted his molecular structure, rendering him invisible to both mechanical and biological detection systems. The first stage of the infiltration was deceptively simple. Small quantum entanglement devices, no larger than a human fingernail, began to subtly manipulate the facility's communication networks. These weren't traditional viruses or hacking tools. They were sophisticated psychological vectors designed to introduce microscopic inconsistencies into the alien intelligence network. A communication between two high-ranking Dominion strategists would suddenly contain a barely perceptible temporal inconsistency. A strategic report would have a mathematical calculation that was fractionally off, so subtle that it would pass initial scrutiny, but would gradually erode confidence in the entire system. Dr. Arya Jong, monitoring from a remote quantum relay station, managed the most delicate part of the operation. Her specialty wasn't just code breaking. She was a master of cognitive manipulation, capable of introducing psychological uncertainty at a systemic level. Target's cognitive dissonance protocols are activating, she reported, her voice calm despite the complexity of the operation. We're introducing approximately 0.03% variance in their predictive models, just enough to create background anxiety without triggering immediate defensive responses. Inside the intelligence hub, senior analysts began to experience something they couldn't quite quantify. Reports that seemed perfectly logical would suddenly feel off. Strategic projections that had been 99.7% accurate now seemed to have hairline fractures of uncertainty. The most brilliant minds in the Nexus Dominion were being systematically destabilized, and they didn't even realize it was happening. Victor Okoye managed the technological infrastructure of the attack. His augmented mind could simultaneously track millions of data streams, introducing microscopic variations that would compound over time. Each communication channel became a potential psychological trap, each data point a potential source of strategic confusion. We're not just gathering intelligence, Victor explained to a junior team member during their preparation. We're creating an environment of perpetual low-grade existential uncertainty. The truly brilliant aspect of the attack was its subtlety. Traditional cyber warfare would trigger immediate defensive protocols. This was something far more insidious, a slow, methodical dismantling of confidence, of predictive capabilities, of the very foundation of strategic thinking. A captured Dominion general would later describe the experience as fighting an enemy that exists everywhere and nowhere, that knows your thoughts before you think them. By the time the first signs of systemic breakdown became apparent, it would be far too late to mount an effective defense. Elena watched the initial results flow through her neural interface. Each data stream was a testament to human ingenuity, a complete reimagining of warfare that went far beyond traditional military confrontation. Phase 1 complete, she subvocalized to her team. Prepare for cognitive destabilization protocol. The real invasion was just beginning, and it wouldn't fire a single traditional weapon. The planet Kepler 782c was nothing more than a radioactive wasteland on most galactic maps, a toxic world rendered uninhabitable by centuries of Nexus Dominion industrial mining. Its surface a nightmare of crystalline toxin fields and molecular decay. What the official records didn't show was the vast network of underground caverns that had become the most sophisticated resistance staging ground in known space. Commander Zaret Kul, a Vortex Collective survivor, watched the holographic displays tracking multiple simultaneous uprisings. Her body was a testament to survival. Cybernetic replacements covering 60% of her physiology, each augmentation a reminder of the Dominion's brutality. The neural link connecting her to the Resistance network pulsed with an intensity that made her feel more alive than she had in decades. Activation sequence confirmed. A voice whispered through her quantum communication implant. It was Dr. Rebecca Chen, the human strategist who had spent years weaving together this impossible alliance. The rebellion was not what anyone expected. It wasn't a single species fighting back. It was a carefully orchestrated symphony of resistance, each group playing a precise role in a plan decades in the making. On the methane seas of Titan IX, the aquatic luminary tribes activated electromagnetic disruptors that had been hidden in their bioorganic infrastructure for generations. Massive energy signatures suddenly went dark across entire Dominion communication networks. To any external observer, it would look like a simple system failure. In the crystalline forests of the area worlds, genetically modified plant networks began to pulse with coded resistance signals. What appeared to be simple bioluminescence was actually a sophisticated communication grid, transmitting tactical information faster than any traditional communication system. The Vortex Collective's most brilliant minds had spent years developing what they called the Distributed Consciousness Protocol, a method of resistance that turned entire planetary ecosystems into living, thinking weapons. Each world was no longer just a location. It was a potential combatant. Kai Martinez monitored the initial stages of the uprising from a quantum relay station. His augmented vision tracked multiple simultaneous revolutions, each carefully timed to create maximum strategic confusion. Dominion defensive systems are showing first-stage breakdown, he reported. Estimated response time is now 437% slower than projected baseline. What made this rebellion truly terrifying was its fundamental approach. This wasn't a traditional military uprising. This was a systemic reimagining of resistance itself. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had spent years identifying the specific genetic and neural markers that would allow different species to work together with unprecedented coordination. The resistance wasn't just an alliance. It was a new form of collective intelligence. A Dominion fleet commander reviewing the initial reports would later describe the experience as fighting an enemy that doesn't just attack, an enemy that fundamentally rewrites the rules of conflict. On a dozen different worlds, resistance movements suddenly found themselves with technologies that defied conventional understanding. Communication networks that could transmit information through quantum entanglement. Biological augmentations that could turn entire populations into adaptive combat units. Technological systems that could predict and counter military strategies before they were even conceived. The most chilling aspect was the precision. Each uprising was perfectly synchronized, each tactical movement calculated to create maximum systemic disruption. Zara Tekel allowed herself the smallest smile. For the first time in generations, the oppressed species of the galaxy were not just fighting back. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of resistance. Primary objective achieved, she subvocalized into the Resistance network. Operation Terra's Fury is now in full activation. The real war was just beginning, and it would be fought in ways no one could have predicted. Somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the first wave of a revolution was taking shape. A revolution that would change everything. The Nexus Dominion's primary battle fleet emerged from quantum slip space like a metallic nightmare. 317 capital ships, each the size of a small moon, their weapon systems calibrated to obliterate entire planetary ecosystems. Admiral Krelax, a veteran of 17 different galactic conflicts, believed this would be a simple pacification operation. He was catastrophically wrong. The first indication that something was different came when the fleet's primary targeting systems began to malfunction. What appeared to be standard planetary defenses were anything but standard. Every resource, every system had been transformed into a potential weapon. On the surface of the primary target world, a human allied planet designated XR-471, What looked like standard mining equipment suddenly reconfigured. Massive excavation lasers that had been used for geological surveys pivoted, their quantum-locked focusing arrays transforming into precision artillery platforms. Atmospheric processors became electromagnetic pulse generators. Orbital communication relays morphed into sophisticated defensive networks. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched from a quantum-shielded command center, her neural interface parsing multiple battle streams simultaneously. Total War Protocol is now at 78% operational capacity, she vocalized to her team. The truly revolutionary aspect of humanity's approach wasn't just technological. It was philosophical. Traditional warfare saw combat as a separation between military and civilian systems. The Total War Protocol erased the distinction entirely. Every citizen was a potential combatant. Every system was a potential weapon. The entire planetary ecosystem became a living, adaptive defense mechanism. Victor Okoye managed the technological infrastructure of the defense. His augmented mind could simultaneously track millions of tactical data streams, turning what appeared to be random planetary systems into a coordinated defensive network. Agricultural irrigation systems became water-based cooling mechanisms for energy weapons. Waste processing plants transformed into chemical warfare distribution points. "We're not defending a planet," Victor explained to a junior team member who was monitoring the initial stages of the conflict. "We're turning an entire ecosystem into a single adaptive combat organism." The Nexus Dominion fleet's first wave of attacks met with something utterly unprecedented. Planetary defenses didn't just resist, they anticipated. Weapon trajectories were predicted and countered before they were even launched. Energy signatures were absorbed, transformed, and redirected with surgical precision. Dr. Aria Zhang managed the cognitive warfare aspect of the defense. Her specialty wasn't just technological manipulation, it was creating systemic uncertainty at a fundamental level. The Dominion fleet's communication networks began to experience microscopic inconsistencies. Strategic projections became incrementally less reliable with each passing moment. A captured Dominion tactical analyst would later describe the experience as fighting an enemy that rewrites the rules of conflict in real time. Kai Martinez led the ground-level adaptive response teams. Augmented beyond traditional human limitations, his units could reconfigure their entire tactical approach within milliseconds. What appeared to be standard infantry units were actually living, thinking weapons systems that could evolve their strategies faster than any traditional military could process. The most chilling aspect was the precision. Each defensive movement was calculated not just to resist, but to create maximum systemic disruption in the attacking force. Admiral Krelax watched in mounting horror as his carefully planned invasion dissolved into chaos. Weapon systems that should have been devastating became ineffective. Communication networks became unreliable. What should have been a simple pacification operation was turning into a nightmare of adaptive resistance. "This is impossible," he muttered, watching another squadron of attack vessels suddenly rendered inoperable by what appeared to be repurposed agricultural control systems. But it wasn't impossible. It was humanity's new approach to warfare. Elena Rodriguez allowed herself the smallest smile. The first phase of the Total War Protocol was complete. The Nexus Dominion was about to learn a fundamental lesson. In this conflict, everything was a weapon. Everything was adaptive. Everything was alive. The real war was just beginning. The Galactic Consensus Chamber had never experienced such profound silence. Representatives from 417 different civilizations sat frozen, their collective neural interfaces struggling to process the implications of what was unfolding. Dr. Rebecca Chen stood at the center of the chamber, not as a military leader, not as a diplomat, but as something far more dangerous. A living demonstration of a fundamentally different approach to civilization. Her presentation was not a traditional argument. It was a systematic deconstruction of every existing galactic paradigm. Conflict is not a problem to be solved through destruction, she began, her voice modulated to penetrate the neural interfaces of every species present. It is an opportunity for collective evolution. The holographic displays began to shift, showing not just the military engagements of the past weeks, but something far more profound. Each tactical movement, each technological innovation was revealed as part of a comprehensive system of collaborative problem-solving. The Carol Imperium's lead strategist, Executor Vrenax, felt something he had never experienced before: genuine fear. The human strategy wasn't about conquest. It was about fundamentally restructuring how civilizations could exist. Victor Okoye managed the technological infrastructure of the presentation, his augmented mind weaving complex data streams into a narrative that was part scientific analysis, part philosophical revelation. Every tactical decision was shown not as a military maneuver, but as a collaborative problem-solving exercise. Planetary defense systems that had repelled the Nexus Dominion's attack were revealed to be more than just weapons. They were living, adaptive ecosystems that transformed every constraint into an opportunity. Agricultural systems became defense networks. Communication relays became cognitive warfare platforms. Every resource was a potential solution. "We are not presenting a method of warfare," Rebecca continued. "We are presenting a method of existence." The truly revolutionary aspect was the comprehensive nature of the approach. Humanity wasn't offering a new technology or a new weapon. They were offering a new way of thinking about complexity itself. Dr. Aria Zhang managed the cognitive transmission aspects of the presentation. Her specialty was not just communication, but the transmission of complex ideas that could fundamentally alter neural processing patterns. Each data stream was carefully constructed to challenge existing cognitive frameworks. A luminary elder would later describe the experience as having our entire understanding of reality incrementally redesigned in real time. The holographic displays began to show something unprecedented. Not just the military engagements, but the collaborative systems that made those engagements possible. Planetary ecosystems that could rapidly adapt. Communication networks that could evolve in real time. Social structures that could transform constraints into opportunities. Kai Martinez stood as a living demonstration of this approach. His augmented body was not just a weapon system, but a comprehensive adaptive platform. Cybernetic enhancements that could rapidly reconfigure. Neural networks that could learn and evolve faster than any traditional biological or mechanical system. "We are not a species," Rebecca's voice cut through the chamber. "We are a method of solving complex problems." The galactic consensus had been designed to maintain existing power structures, to prevent any single civilization from gaining too much influence, to carefully manage conflict and progress. Humanity was systematically dismantling every aspect of that system. Executor Vrenax realized something terrifying. This wasn't a military invasion. This was a comprehensive reimagining of what a civilization could be. A method of existence that transformed every challenge into an opportunity for collective growth. The most chilling aspect was the precision. Each revelation was calculated not just to demonstrate technological superiority, but to fundamentally challenge how civilizations understood themselves. "We are offering you not a weapon," Rebecca concluded. "We are offering you a method of evolution." The galactic consensus chamber remained silent. But it was the silence of a fundamental transformation already in motion. The real revolution was not about to begin. It was already happening. The quantum relay station known as Nexus Prime burned with a light that was neither fire nor energy, but something entirely new. What had once been the most secure communication hub in the known galaxy was now ground zero for the most profound technological and societal transformation in galactic history. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the epicenter, her neural interface parsing multiple realities simultaneously. This wasn't just a military victory. This was a complete systemic reset of how civilizations could exist. Transformation protocols at 92% operational capacity, Dr. Aria Zhang reported, her voice a calm counterpoint to the fundamental restructuring happening around them. The most revolutionary aspect wasn't the technological dismantling of the Nexus Dominion. It was the comprehensive reconstruction that followed. Every system, every communication network, every governmental structure was being reimagined from the ground up. Victor Okoye managed the technological infrastructure of the transformation. His augmented mind could simultaneously track millions of adaptive protocols, turning what appeared to be systematic destruction into a living, evolving network of collaborative potential. On 100 different worlds, resistance movements that had been carefully prepared for generations now began the real work. These were not traditional liberation forces. They were comprehensive redesign teams, each equipped with technologies and methodologies that could transform entire planetary systems. The Vortex Collective's survivors began reconstructing their homeworld's ecosystem. What had been a radiation-blasted wasteland now became a living demonstration of adaptive reconstruction. Nano-terraforming systems worked in real time, transforming toxic environments into thriving, interconnected ecosystems. Kai Martinez led the ground-level transformation teams. His units were part military, part social architects, part ecological engineers. Every action was a carefully calculated move in a comprehensive redesign of how civilizations could interact with their environments. "We're not rebuilding," Kai explained to a junior team member. "We're creating living systems of continuous adaptation." The quantum relay station itself was a testament to this approach. What had been a communication hub was transforming into something that defied traditional understanding. Part research facility, part living ecosystem, part computational platform, it was a physical manifestation of humanity's new approach to existence. Dr. Rebecca Chen oversaw the broader philosophical implications of the transformation. Her neural interfaces were simultaneously tracking multiple levels of societal reconstruction. Each communication protocol, each governmental structure was being reimagined as a collaborative, adaptive system. A captured Nexus Dominion strategic analyst would later describe the experience as watching our entire understanding of civilization being systematically redesigned in real time. The most chilling aspect was the precision. Each transformative move was calculated not just to dismantle existing power structures, but to create comprehensive, adaptive alternatives. Zeratikal, representing the newly formed collaborative species network, watched as entire planetary governance systems were reimagined. What had been hierarchical, rigid structures became fluid, adaptive networks of collective decision-making. "This isn't just a revolution," she reported to her team. "This is a comprehensive redesign of what civilization can be." The technologies being deployed defied traditional understanding. Communication networks that could evolve in real time. Governance systems that could adapt to complex challenges faster than any traditional bureaucracy. Educational platforms that could reshape entire species' understanding of their potential. Elena Rodriguez allowed herself the smallest smile. The first phase of the transformation was complete. The Nexus Dominion had been more than defeated. It had been comprehensively reimagined. Primary objective achieved. She subvocalized into the collaborative network. Transformation protocols are now at full operational capacity. Around her, the quantum relay station continued to shift and evolve. It was no longer just a communication hub. It was a living demonstration of a fundamental truth: that civilization is not a fixed state, but a continuous process of adaptation and growth. The real transformation was just beginning, and it would change everything. The Galactic Archive Museum stood as a testament to transformation. Located on a carefully constructed neutral world at the intersection of multiple star systems, it was more than a repository of historical information. It was a living, breathing record of the most profound shift in galactic civilization. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez adjusted the quantum memory core that would preserve the full narrative of Operation Terra's Fury. He understood that this was more than a historical document. It was a blueprint for a new way of existing. Holographic displays traced the complex trajectory of humanity's intervention. What had appeared to be a military campaign was revealed as something far more nuanced, a comprehensive redesign of how civilizations could interact, solve problems, and evolve. It was never about victory. Elena Nakamura explained to a group of young researchers from multiple species. It was about potential. The archive captured the impossible complexity of the operation. Not just the tactical movements, but the philosophical innovations. Every battle, Every technological breakthrough was a proof of concept for a new model of collective existence. Kai Martinez curated the adaptive warfare section, demonstrating how conflict could be transformed into a collaborative problem-solving exercise. Interactive displays showed how planetary ecosystems became defense networks, how communication systems became platforms for collective intelligence. War is not about destruction, Kai would often tell visitors. It's about understanding and transformation. Dr. Aria Jung managed the cognitive evolution exhibits. Her displays traced how humanity had introduced a fundamental shift in how civilizations could think about complexity. Neural interfaces showed the gradual transformation of multiple species' cognitive frameworks, revealing how a single approach to problem-solving could reshape entire civilizations. The most profound section was dedicated to the collaborative species network, the new galactic organizational structure that had emerged from the conflict. It was nothing like the rigid hierarchies of the past. Instead, it was a fluid, adaptive system where every species could contribute, where challenges were seen as opportunities for collective growth. Zeratikal, now a senior advisor to the collaborative network, often spoke about the true revolution. Humanity didn't conquer us, she would explain. They showed us how to conquer our own limitations. Victor Okoy's technological archives demonstrated the most radical aspect of the transformation. Technologies that had been developed during the conflict were now being used to solve fundamental challenges across multiple worlds. Planetary reconstruction systems, adaptive ecological management platforms, communication networks that could evolve in real time. A captured Nexus Dominion historian's records were particularly revealing. They described humanity not as a military force, but as a method of solving complex problems. A living demonstration that civilization is not a fixed state, but a continuous process of adaptation and growth. Rebecca Chen's philosophical contributions were carefully preserved. Her fundamental thesis, that conflict is an opportunity for collective evolution, had become the foundational principle of the new galactic organization. The interactive displays allowed visitors to trace the incredible complexity of Operation Terra's Fury. What had appeared to be a military campaign was revealed as a comprehensive redesign of how civilizations could exist. Each tactical movement, each technological innovation was shown as part of a larger collaborative framework. "We are not a species," the final exhibit quoted Rebecca Chen. "We are a method of solving complex problems." Young researchers from multiple species would spend hours exploring the archives, understanding how a single civilization had fundamentally transformed the understanding of potential itself. Elena Rodriguez, now serving as a senior historical consultant, watched the visitors with a sense of quiet satisfaction. The operation had never been about conquest. It had been about demonstration. A young luminary researcher approached her. "Was it planned?" she asked. "All of this?" Elena's smile was enigmatic. "Some things are planned," she responded. "Some things are discovered. The best transformations are a combination of both." Outside the museum, the stars continued their ancient dance, but something had fundamentally changed. The galaxy was no longer just a collection of separate civilizations. It was a living, collaborative system of infinite potential. The legacy of Terra was just beginning.